Hello, I'm Jay Hyland, archivist to the Jewish Museum Milwaukee, here with another museum moment. The history of Jewish Milwaukee dates back to the 1840s, and today I'm going to share with you the story of one person who you may not have heard of, but was very instrumental in the early development of not only the Jewish community, but also Milwaukee in general. And that person is Nathan Pereles. Nathan was born in a very small village in Niatra County, Hungary, which is currently present-day Western Slovakia. His parents, Herman and Judith, were both children of rabbis and were teachers at the village school. The family was very poor, and although his parents tried to give him the best education they could, they realized that he would have better opportunities elsewhere. When he was 9 years old, Nathan was taken into the family of a well-to-do merchant in Prague, with whom he stayed through his teenage years and eventually became a clerk in a wholesale indigo and seed store, also located in Prague. In 1845, along with a friend, he decided to make the journey to the United States in order to achieve even better opportunities. He arrived in the US virtually penniless, without knowing English, and ended up becoming a laborer on a farm in New Jersey, where a farmer employed him for 1 year and also allowed him to attend school some of the time in order to start to learn English. At night, Nathan gave lessons in German and French to the younger kids in the neighborhood. In 1847, Nathan left New Jersey and moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he established a grocery business with two childhood friends. About a year later, he was able to open his own retail grocery store, located on Chestnut Street near 3rd Street, and also added a dry goods department to the store. This ad that you see here is from the May 5th, 1851 Milwaukee Daily Free Democrat, and you see that his store is mentioned as being a place where people could go to buy this particular newspaper. Around this time, Nathan also sent money to his parents and sister in order to be able to bring them to Wisconsin. One of his sisters was actually already in Wisconsin, and you would be familiar with this person. Nathan's sister was Mary Pereles, who married John Black, and John and Mary are the parents of Lizzie Kander, seen here in this photo, of Settlement Cookbook fame. So Lizzie and Nathan were close relatives. Nathan's grocery store became very successful, but at the same time, he knew he did not want to do this for the remainder of his life. So he retired from the business in 1855, around the age of 31, and started to study law and medicine. At the same time, he also became involved in the local community, including the local Jewish community. First, in the late 1840s, high holiday services were even held above his grocery store. Then he was involved with the development of building an actual synagogue, which you see here, Congregation B'nai Jeshurun, which opened in 1856. This building later became used as a foundry. And from this building, B'nai Jeshurun moved to where the Milwaukee County Courthouse is currently located. Nathan also provided a $600 loan towards the building of this place of worship and helped hire the first rabbi. Unfortunately, around this time, shortly thereafter, In 1857, there was a panic, which was the first real financial disaster affecting pretty much the entire United States. And Nathan basically lost everything and pretty much had to start over. He decided at that time to dedicate himself solely to the law profession and interned with George W. Chapman, one of the most well-known attorneys in town, for 1 year. Later that year, in 1857, Nathan was admitted to practice and became the first Jewish lawyer in Milwaukee. According to one of Nathan's grandsons, Nathan read the Bible every night during this time in an effort to learn more English to be able to use for his law profession. He became law partners with Robert N. Austin, with their office located at the corner of Water and Wisconsin, where he would remain for the next 12 years. He specialized in commercial and real estate law and was also a manager and trustee for many estates and became a very trusted person in the community. Unfortunately, in 1869, he faced yet another obstacle, and the partnership dissolved because he started to lose his eyesight. The doctors said that it was because he was just overworking himself too much and needed to rest and not even look at a book for 6 months. Nathan listened to the doctors and eventually recovered and ended up establishing his own law firm, which was located very close to Milwaukee's famous City Hall building. Nathan's children were also quite accomplished people as well. His first son was named Benjamin Franklin Pereles, who was born in 1850 and died in 1902. Benjamin was engaged in a dry goods business, but also later took up real estate and insurance and ended up being very successful. We do not have a picture of Benjamin in our archives, so if anyone watching this has a picture of Benjamin they would like to share with us, please do so. The next son in line was named James Madison Pereles, seen here as a young man, who was born in 1852 and died in 1910. James graduated from UW Law School in 1874 and joined his father in the law practice. He was also president of the Citizens Trust Company and known for his many acts of charity, and also later became a circuit court judge. With his charity work, he was a member of Milwaukee Public Library Board and eventually became its president for a number of years. Also, he was involved with the development of the Milwaukee Auditorium, which is still around on Kilbourne and now known as Miller High Life Theater. In fact, he was so dedicated to the cause that when he became sick shortly before his death, he would still attend board meetings even though he couldn't walk, and basically walk, and would pull his car up to the side of the building, and fellow board members would help bring him in for the meetings. When James died in 1912, the Milwaukee Public Library closed at noon and was closed for the remainder of the day for his funeral. All courts sessions were also suspended throughout the city of Milwaukee. Another charitable thing that James did was he founded a special branch of Books for the Blind and made annual contributions to increase the utility, and also created a scholarship in University of Wisconsin Law Department in his father's name. The third son was named Thomas Jefferson Pereles. You see a pattern here with the names of the sons. He was born in 1853 and died in 1913. He was also a graduate from UW Law School, and after he graduated, he joined his brother James and father Nathan, and the firm became known as Nathan Pereles and Sons. Thomas was the City of Milwaukee's public debt commissioner for a number of years, and showing how well he was thought of, he was appointed by a Democrat, even though he was a Republican, and then also later appointed by a Republican. So he was able to work well with both sides of the aisle. He also later became the president of Milwaukee's Bar Association and did a lot of charitable work, including buying school supplies for thousands of kids to be able to attend school, and also providing funds that gave kids school books, which they otherwise would not have been able to afford. Here's an article with some of his involvement with the Masons. This is from the 1903 Milwaukee paper, as Thomas was heavily involved with that for a number of years. Back to Nathan. In the late 1870s, unfortunately had another tragedy. He was riding his horse and thrown from it and ended up contracting a tumor and also spinal disease. He died about a year later. The Milwaukee Sentinel said after his death, quote, "It has been justly said that no man in Milwaukee possessed so thoroughly the confidence of businessmen and of the citizens at large, and that his name was a synonym of trust and fidelity." The picture that you see here is of the Pereles family monument at Greenwood Cemetery in Milwaukee, which is located right next to Forrest's home. If you're interested in learning more about the family, there are a number of Pereles family members buried here. And in fact, the Pereles name is still involved in the leadership of the cemetery today, with John Pereles as the current president. I'd like to close with a special story that kind of really illustrates what kind of person Nathan was. The photo that you see here, the photos, are of Alice Heller, who was the daughter of Julia Black Heller. Julia was a sister of Lizzie Kander, and Lewis Heller. Shortly after Alice was born, Nathan wrote a letter to Julia and Lewis, congratulating them on the birth of his niece. And we actually are fortunate to have a copy of that letter. And as you'll see, Nathan's penmanship is great, and he obviously learned a lot of English during his time in the US. But the letter reads, "My dear niece Julia, I am greatly indebted to you for the extra pleasure and source of comfort you created for me and my wife in sending the likeness of your sweet Alice. Pardon me for saying what must have been told to you again and again, that the picture represents the finest child in existence. I know that you will say that neither myself nor my wife are impartial in the matter, and that therefore our assertions cannot be dependent. We have, however, shown the picture to ladies of good judgment in this city, in Appleton, in Green Bay, on the trains up and down from those cities, and all of them pronounce it as the sweetest and finest child they ever saw. My wife joins in sending to you, your husband Lewis, and the sweetest child, Alice. You have our well wishes. Your uncle, Nathan." Many thanks to Nikki Tules and her daughter, Tracy Tules, for providing many of the images and articles used in this presentation. Special thanks to our Museum Moments supporter, Robin Cohn, for supporting these moments. And if you'd like to make a donation to Jewish Museum Milwaukee or learn more about our upcoming programs, please visit jewishmuseummilwaukee.org. Thank you.